Welcome to the Sushi Swap Onsen AMA, where we bring on projects that have partnered through the Onsen program and give them a platform to reach a larger audience. Today we are here with Simon, JD, Verdo, and Dark Forest Capital. How are you today?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thanks for having us on today.
Yeah, awesome. So good.
Very well.
Yeah, awesome that Index Coop could join us today. So we'll just get started here with a few questions and a quick intro, and get kind of open this up to the audience. They can ask a bunch of questions as the questions come in. And at the bottom of your screen, you should see a raise hand button, and you can raise your hand, and we invite yourself up onto stage. We'll get you up here, and away we go. There's also the AMA text questions channel, which you can head in there and type your questions. We've already got people using it, I see, so that's fantastic. So if you guys don't mind, just introduce yourselves a bit here, give us a quick background, and just kind of how your involvement with Index Coop.
Sure, I guess I can kick us off. First of all, Tangle, thank you so much for having us on. Super stoked to be able to talk to the Sushi Swap community. All four of us have been huge fans of what you guys have been doing with sushi over the last few months, and are really excited to get up here in front of your community. So my name's Simon. I go by Big Sky on Discord and Twitter. I've been involved with Index Co-op since late last year. My background is I spent 6 years in the United States Marine Corps as an infantry officer. Got out, went to business school, thought I was going to become a big-time investment banker, discovered that DeFi was a lot more fun and a lot more exciting than that, and stumbled down the rabbit hole, and was incredibly fortunate to find my way to Index Co-op, where I am part of the core team and I lead BD.
Awesome, thank you.
I'll jump in next then. First of all, this is easily the most well-populated AMA that I've ever been a part of. So respect to the sushi community for coming out for this one, and it's great to be here. Tangle, your intro and your mic setup is incredible. So I just have to comment on that and say, and I need to figure out what your sound setup is because it sounds amazing. My background is as a mechanical engineer. That's what I studied at university, and then I went to work in the automotive industry, working on making cars sound good. I quit that to try and pursue my dream of becoming an airline pilot, which was put on hold by COVID. And I ended up looking for ways that I didn't have to go back into an office to work again. So I started trading, picking up on crypto as well. Fell down the rabbit hole during DeFi summer. Index Co-op came around in October, and I just jumped into the community and found traction there with stuff that I was discussing around governance and treasury management and all that sort of stuff. And that spiraled out of control to the point where I became a full-time contributor, and I'm now a methodologist for the Metaverse Index product as well within the Index Co-op.
Nice, thank you.
I can go next. I go by AG or Verto on kind of Discord and socials and so on. My background is actually asset management, portfolio management. Done that in the US and in Australia for almost a decade. And I sort of was on my way out of kind of the traditional finance industry. It had really nothing to do with crypto. I was just kind of sick of it, and I got to the point where I was able to sort of to have a target in mind in terms of when I'll be able to leave, and it coincided a little bit with this crypto renaissance that we got in 2020. So I sort of started doing a few things here and there on the content side in the beginning of last year, and then by the time I was able to quit, I was able to sort of scale into crypto full time. Found Index eventually, through DPI, one of our products, and given my background, it kind of felt like a natural fit, and the community kind of worked as well. I think we all know that in crypto, you can have like all the insight in the world, but if the community just doesn't click for you, you won't be able to effectively contribute. So it kind of really clicked for me with Index around November, I think, of last year. And yeah, sort of like was everyone escalated from there to the point where yeah, I'm full time kind of Index Coop, and we all wear sort of a lot of hats. So I do focus on the metaverse product specifically, and kind of a bunch of other things around the co-op here and there when there is a need.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you all for all that. Very elaborate. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So, yeah, it sounds like some of you just come in or come into Index Coop or Co-op, sorry, as things have evolved with it. What's kind of inspired Index Co-op, or what kind of got it started, or what's brought it to life?
So I think, when I think of the mission of Index Co-op, it's really, and we talk about this a lot. So index funds, when they were introduced in the late 60s, the early 70s, they really revolutionized finance for like normal people, right? Because the passive investing was really the first way that normal families, everybody could invest, and in like a safe, low risk way, right? Before index funds, you had to make specific bets on different stocks, and we all know that it's like very, very difficult to beat the market. And with Index Co-op, as it was founded, November of last year, I think really the founding vision was that same passive investing revolution that traditional index funds brought to traditional markets. Like we wanted to bring to the crypto world. We wanted to create products that allowed ordinary people to invest in crypto in a safe way, in a diversified way, and really bring passive investing to crypto. And we really see that as the future. We believe our products will help onboard millions and millions of people into crypto. We believe that it will provide a really safe way for people to engage in the markets in this space. And we've been incredibly fortunate to see that vision gain a lot of traction over the last few months.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, you just want to kind of give us a quick overview on Index and kind of how it works. We've kind of touched on a few things already, but yeah, just a quick overview and some of the products that are involved with it.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to cover that. So we have 5 products at the moment. Our sort of main or our first product, and what many would call our kind of flagship product, is the DeFi Pulse Index, or DPI. We also have 2 leverage products, 2x ETH and 2x BTC, which are sort of allow people to get leverage without having to manage the collateral. So we automate the collateral management process. We also have the Metaverse Index, as we mentioned before, and we just recently launched the BED product, so Bitcoin ETH DPI, in partnership with Bankless. Sort of the current product lineup, and there's a good amount of products in the pipeline, but it's it's the process. It's like a process of taking a product from an idea to actual launch, and we are still trying to get better and more efficient with that process. But we certainly hope that we'll have a few products coming out in the next few months.
Nice. Yeah, it's cool to see a little bit of diversity with these products and focusing on the key things as well here. Seeing the Bitcoin and ETH products, and of course, DPI here. DeFi is such a large part of all of our lives, and the metaverse thing is really cool. That's really cool as well. So, and see that community is such a thing for you guys as well, and just kind of you want to just open up about how to get involved with you guys as a contributor with Index Co-op, and kind of how a little bit about your system as well.
I can start off a little bit on this, but to be honest, I'm not up to date with it anymore because I know that it's really evolved recently. So it was quite interesting because when I first joined back in October, it was pretty much like turn up, start talking about stuff, start putting forward ideas, start delivering things that are useful for like pushing the co-op forward, and that will eventually like translate into working your way through the. We had like this owl progression from bronze owl up to silver and then gold, and increasing the rewards along the way. But thankfully, we've had people come on board now who have, I guess, a bit like Utangle, where they've taken on like one specific aspect. So we have a community member called Pepperoni Joe, who's really sharpened up our onboarding now to the point where it's like you have this official onboarding process. There was like quests involved that see you like do something useful around the co-op to both get the person like up to speed with what's going on, and also like do some useful work for the DAO, and that sees them become like a fully fledged member then of the co-op. And I think it's been great to see that evolution. The spirit, like the underlying spirit, is still there, where if you are delivering something that's impactful for the co-op, then absolutely like you're going to get rewarded and you're going to be welcomed as part of the DAO, and that'll spread your name about, and people will involve you in like more and more conversations as you go. I don't know if any of the other contributors have been to the new joiner call recently, or if they've seen that process in action, but from what I've heard and the quality of people that we've had coming into our community, I think it's been a definite upgrade to our onboarding process.
I can just jump in there really quick. I think, we really, over the last 3 months or so, started to put a real emphasis on, people joining our community and, figuring out how they can contribute in really effective ways. And that's really, really started to pay dividends for us. Like we recently launched one of the first ever DAO internship programs. We had 388 applicants for 6 slots. The level of talent and, the background of people that were applying was just incredible. People from all over the world, all different backgrounds. And, I think DAOs like Sushi Swap, like Index Co-op, like these are really going to become the landing spot for the next generation of talent. And we're kind of entering a world where if you're a sophomore, junior, or senior in university right now, like you want to come and work for a DAO. You don't want to go work for Google or Facebook or Goldman Sachs. Like DAOs are the landing place.
Yeah, it's cool to hear that and hear that like that's a new future. You don't want to go, or people are not interested in going to those places. They're looking for new and exciting opportunities here in this new ecosystem. So very, very cool. Yeah. So with your index token, what are some of the responsibilities of the holders, or some of the things that you guys have seen have helped shape your community, and some of the governance stuff as well?
I was typing up some answers to the AMA text questions we've had there.
Oh yeah,
some
awesome.
interesting,
and
interesting opinions come through. Sorry.
Yeah, and as we get into that, I can start reading some of those out here shortly, and we can kind of we can automate or audio those as well. So, or vocalize those.
I think I'm gonna volunteer JD to speak for a little bit actually, because he hasn't spoken yet, and say that one of the most interesting governance proposals that we've had recently was the process of hiring JD as what we call a full-time contributor. So index token holders are obviously able to vote on proposals that affect the index co-op. And one of the most recent ones was that transition, taking JD from an ad hoc contributor to somebody who gets a full-time package as defined by the IIP that we put through. So JD, I don't know if maybe you want to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, happy to talk about this. Just first, it was quite a surreal experience to, in traditional tech, the startups I've worked for, the hiring experience for a DAO is completely different, and kind of surreal experience to like watch this proposal go live. Basically, that's your hiring process, and see other people support and vote for you and rally around you. So it was a really big, just a personal moment that was really cool to experience. But I think like the index token is really interesting because of obviously within our indexes, we especially DPI right now, we have meta governance properties where you can use the index token to signal voting on other major protocols as well, like Aave or Compound, etc. So that's actually a big value for a lot of other DAOs or protocols in the space, is having governance, a say in governance across the ecosystem. And another reason Big Sky might be able to talk more to this, but another strategic reason for the raise that we recently did was getting more stakeholders involved, and further kind of even decentralizing our process, our governance a little bit more, getting more high-level stakeholders, either through delegation or through direct contribution, involved in our governance process. So it's something we're always thinking about. We actually, on the analytics team, we monitor our governance votes. We're always trying to see how decentralized our voting is, if there are any gaps we should be aware of, and how we can improve that process as we scale as a DAO.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's wonderful to see, a lot of the DAOs that are taking off these days and shaping up and building communities and just kind of creating fairness as well. So that's really wonderful to hear all that is happening. So,
You know what's JD mentioned the raise, and I think it's fascinating. So I was just talking to Rachel Sushi the other day about your guys' raise and kind of how that's gone. And it's really exciting. I think we're in a really exciting phase in crypto where, during DeFi summer and kind of last fall with DeFi, I think a lot of these big funds got a really bad reputation because they, were really focused on yield farming and, dumping these tokens and kind of getting in early. And we're starting to see a transition where we're getting really like these really good, like long-term investors who have, who want to invest in projects for, the next 5 years, the next decade. They're starting to get involved in SushiSwap or Index Co-op, and they're also starting to really like build relationships with these communities, right? Like in previous iterations of this, like there was really no relationship, right? Like whoever invested in Reddit had no relationship with like the Reddit community. There was no like, Reddit Series A investors subreddit where the community could talk to the investors and engage with them.
Yeah, that's true.
With like DAOs, right? Like we're totally changing that dynamic where, DAOs are starting to be really critical and saying, hey, like, what are you bringing to the table here? And, and the investors want that too, right? Like, I think, if you're a big investor, like you want to be able to find ways to add value. And, the thing we're seeing with investors, and I think this is a really key point, is they're just like new community members in a DAO. Like when people show up at Index Co-op or SushiSwap and they want to help out, like the first couple of months, they have no idea how to help out. It's too new. But they're eager to learn. And I think, as communities and investors like build these relationships and like build mutual trust, like really the sky is the limit on what can be accomplished together here.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. No, that's really cool. And it's great to see that we're seeing this kind of across the whole space as well. It's not just isolated in little pockets, but that people are opening up to this idea, and it's very groundbreaking and very cool to be here and watching it happen in real time. So, yeah. do we want to just like kind of break through some of your tokens as well, or some of the, I guess, the index tokens as well, just like but I mean, break down like the DPI and the MVI, maybe some of the things that are in it, and just kind of how those shape up and how people come up with those, or how things kind of got added to it.
Yes, JD, you want to do PI or Fly and 2x BTC, and then Paul and Verto can do MBI.
Yeah. Sorry, you cut out a little bit. I'll touch on the Fly products a little bit more. So Fly products are interesting because they really serve a completely or tended to serve a completely different market than your traditional like thematic indexes like DPI and MVI and BED that we've launched. We've put out a lot of content on how Fly products aren't intended to be buy and hold products. Through the rebalancing process and whatnot, there's volatility decay, so it's not necessarily a buy and hold product, but we believe there's this structured product market for sophisticated traders, people that are moving money around more quickly, that having leverage built into an asset is really valuable. And that's not where that ends. Like we're hoping to release, the next one on the docket is inverse ETH. And it's not because we are not bullish on ETH and what we're all building here, but it's because these products are meant for short-term movements, for traders to capitalize on those movements. And we envision a whole suite of products that when traders are trying to capitalize on movement of major assets, they are literally just trading between index tokens that are super simple. They're not winding up and unwinding leverage in different protocols. They literally just trading between index tokens and are capturing the same effects that they would be doing otherwise.
Yeah, cool. Just kind of going through the AMA questions here as well. You guys have been kind of fielding a few of those. Let's see, is there anything that we wanted to vocalize here?
I think everybody just really wants a deep dive on the MBI methodology.
Okay, yeah. Well, then let's get into that. Sorry, I'm just kind of catching up into the AMA text channel, or into the questions there. But sure, let's dive into the MVI. Let's do it.
Yeah, I can give a bit of a background of how it came about, and then I think Verto can take you through the nitty gritty of the methodology, given that it was pretty much his brainchild. But so you imagine I was sat there in October of last year, pretty much a basement dweller for the whole year, having not been able to pursue my dream, as I mentioned earlier. And I've been trading crypto, and I've noticed that a lot of my friends have stopped going to the office. Business meetings are taking place online, socializing is taking place via Zoom, etc., etc. So NFTs are all the rage. It's October, November sort of time. There was a bit of a hype cycle then after DeFi summer. And there was a proposal for an NFT index, and I just thought maybe there's a way that we can broaden the scope of that and try and capture this theme of everybody's life moving to take place more and more online. So whether that is socializing, entertainment, or business, whatever it might be. And having seen, I think it was a couple of years ago now, but Travis Scott held a concert in Fortnite, and millions of people turned up. Even Decentraland last year held a football tournament in Decentraland, and gave away a prize trophy that was backed by Paxos Gold, or one of the gold tokens. And I just thought, you can see this trend emerging. This is going to be massive. Let's try and design something that incorporates all of that. So that was the proposal that I put out on the forum. It went a bit quiet for a while. It didn't get traction because we were pursuing the growth of DPI at the time. And then, of course, it came back around in February, March, and everybody was interested in it again. And so like the community and set protocol kind of turned around to us and said, look, we should probably launch this. So we timed it really well and launched at a local top on April the 7th, which was a bit painful, but we got the product out there. And I think over the next couple of years, like this thing is going to be massive. You're seeing it picked up in mainstream media now, like Zuckerberg. I think years ago, he told everybody at Facebook to read Snow Crash, which is where the term metaverse actually comes from. So now he's come back around on it and he's saying that he wants to build a metaverse and yada, yada, yada. But I think the narrative is there. It's not going to go away. And there is a financial product in crypto that hopefully can represent some part of that emerging trend. So that's really the high level behind where it comes from.
Cool, thank you. With when you talk about Snow Crash and the metaverse, where's your metaverse? Where do you see it?
So first of all, disclaimer, I haven't read Snow Crash because everybody at Facebook was told to read it, and I hate doing things just because, like, I hate Facebook, basically. So I decided not to read it, but I've read plenty of other sci-fi books, and I think that the metaverse is going to be an emergent phenomenon. I think we're already somewhere along the scale of the emergence of the metaverse, and the end state is basically an imperceptible blend between digital and physical realities. So anything that enables that is, I would consider, part of the rise of the metaverse. And I think when people refer to something like Decentraland as a metaverse itself, that's not the correct way of looking at it. I don't think. I think the metaverse is like intangible. It's just the ability to like flick between physical and digital reality, like I say. So stuff like VR goggles or augmented reality, when we eventually like break our phones down into something that can become like a haptic glove and a set of like snap glasses or whatever it might be, like that's the progression of the metaverse. And one day it will be everywhere and like it will just be part of everyday reality, and people won't know any distinct difference.
Got it. You feel it's a full integration, essentially, just a synergized blend of the two.
Yeah.
Versus like the having real world and having the metaverse, two separate pieces. And just want to say shout out to Facebook for Dark Forest Capital. Facebook, send them some. Send Dark Forest Capital some swag. Big fan.
Yeah.
I
Verto.
think, we had a recent conversation with someone about metaverse, and I think from our perspective, it's inevitable, right? Like there's inevitability to sort of our migration to the digital space, and it's basically going to happen. It's going to happen over decades. There are still technological issues that we need to figure out, but it's it's definitely there. And one of the kind of technology is obviously like a big part of it, but one of the big parts of transition to metaverse is demographics, right? Like if we think about demographics of the world or Western developed country demographics, like a lot of the world still lives in this old sort of industrial system, right? It's with boomers and with a lot of millennials as well. And to those people, right, like being digitally native is not natural. Like it just doesn't make sense to them.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some millennials to whom it does, right? Being digitally native, NFTs, punks, and so on, all of them make sense. But the next generation, right, the Gen Z, they are crypto native. They're going to be digitally native. They're going to do everything online. You already see that with Fortnite, skins, so as that like generational balance starts to shift more towards younger generation, that's only going to accelerate this transition to the metaverse. So I think it's also important to just say that like when we talk about metaverse, right, it's not like a single thing. It's not like it's a virtual world and that's the definition. No, it's this complete overlay of digital reality on top of physical reality. And encompasses different technologies, right? VR, NFTs, blockchain, and so on. And there's a lot of kind of other parts to it around networking, internet speeds, infrastructure, and so on and so forth that kind of all goes into this building of the metaverse, building of the future digital world. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, that it's not like just a virtual world. It's much bigger than that.
Yeah, the infrastructure around the virtual worlds and the digital worlds. That's a really good point, and that's a great way of thinking of it, and it might help make a little more sense for everyone with the with the MVI as well. So, but no, that's go ahead.
I was saying, so Verto brought up. I mean, we talked about this at ECC in Paris a lot, and it was fascinating where he's talked about kind of that generational shift, right? How, as a millennial, right? Like I'm, early 30s, and I see, maybe 2% of my friends like actually kind of get crypto and get the digital revolution, and you run into the younger generation Z, and they immediately understand kind of the significance here. And a lot of our generation is kind of, there's been so many changes over the last 30 years technologically that I think a lot of people are in that millennial generation are like very reluctant to engage in like one more technological change, right? Like they've seen too much at this point, and they're over it. They're just like, can we just stop? Can the technology stop changing, and can we just hit pause? But this digital first generation, this Generation Z that's really coming up, like they were born in digitally, and they are very ready to embrace these technologies. And I can't tell you how many protocol founders we talk to who are 18, 19, 20, who intuitively understand what is happening here. And I think that is the true trend that Dark Forest and Berto have like really recognized with this metaverse index and are really getting ahead of.
Yeah, it's good to have that foresight with this. Yep, cool. So just touching kind of final bits on that. What metaverses are you guys playing with, involved in, or like enjoying? Can you share with us?
Yeah, like obvious one, Axie Infinity. I think like Verto's more heavily involved. He's probably a better Axie player than I am, so maybe he can give you a bit more of a lowdown on that one. But I think NFT games are like a huge, like a hugely powerful part of what's coming out of this. And we've written pieces on and talked about play to earn and what that offers. So there's not just Axie. There's going to be Illuvium, which is aiming to be like a AAA rated game on the blockchain, like the first of its kind, really take the fight to like Roblox and Minecraft. So the opportunity here is massive. And if you think about the example I like to use is Candy Crush. Like if you've ever seen that game, that mobile game, pretty much like advanced Tetris, just with brighter colors. People used to play that like hours on end, and they don't get any value out of it. Like they can't extract any value from that game. It's sold on the App Store, and the money goes to the developer and partly to Apple or Google, whoever owns that App Store, and that's it. But it still hooked people in, and they would play it, but to the end of time. Imagine that, but you actually get paid to play it, or you can earn like value arises from certain utility within the game, and you get a token that you can then trade on Binance into your local currency. Like, can you imagine how powerful that is? And we're starting to see it, first of all, with Axie Infinity, where there are people in the Philippines who are giving up their jobs, like working for GrabCar or Uber, and are turning instead to play Axie because they can do it on their own terms. Nobody can tell them what they can or can't do with their money. They don't have to wait for the money to arrive at the end of the month. Like they can cash it out whenever they want. They can pick up and put down the mobile as they please. Like it's totally on their terms. And if we think that we're at the bottom of this adoption curve, like the very start of it. I can only imagine like where this is going to end up, and at some point I believe that governments are going to have to sit up and take notice, because I think they'll be asking themselves, why are our population not returning to work, or why are we like seeing higher unemployment numbers if there is this like geographical arbitrage available where somebody in the Philippines can make double their monthly salary playing a blockchain game. Like that's just, it's immensely powerful, and I'm like super excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, that's that could be very interesting. That's going to become very, very interesting. Yeah. Okay. If
I just
go ahead,
quick
JD.
double point on that, like following up what DFC is saying. When I talk to like my parents or aunts and uncles, somebody that, they laugh at me when I show them an Axie. Like they haven't grasped or gone through the transformation where we have, where we can understand that essentially owning data in the digital world that unlocks some value in some way is valuable and is real. Like they can't grasp that. But when you talk to them about like how people can traverse across like geographic boundaries and anybody can have access to the same markets, so like people in the Philippines can earn and swap and basically increase their income because they now have access to markets that people in the States or people in Europe or other, like the boundaries in the digital world there are not near as many boundaries, and that actually clicks with them. And that's the only thing I've really been able to help show the value of crypto, that where they really understand. So that's been really interesting to see. And I just want to totally agree with what Dark Forest Capital is saying, is that's going to continue to be a movement. It's going to create a lot of waves, I think.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. While we've got a pause here, I just want to mention to everyone we have a new Pope claim system, and I've got it. I've just have that channel shut down here for now, just so we don't end up breaking it while everyone's in here trying to claim. We're still working through the kinks with all of it. We may need, if people are interested in Popes, we may need you to stick around for a little bit afterwards. I may have to try and fix the old bot to try and capture some names. But yes, please be patient with us. We're trying to get a new system that's going to work for everybody, so that we don't have backlogs on this. So appreciate everyone's patience with that. And we'll stick around afterwards and we can talk about it after the show. So if there's any questions from the audience as well, please raise your hand. We've got the raise hand button down at the bottom. We can get you up on stage. I see a few things have come through on the AMA text questions, so I really appreciate those things coming in there. But if anybody else has questions for Index Co-op, please, or any questions around the products, let's get you up on stage. That would be awesome. In the meantime, so with I guess let's just talk about the Index token here. It's on Sushi Swap as well. You guys can all swap for it and everything, and it's part of the Onsen rewards right now. So there is some farming behind it, and same with the DPI.
Correct. And I also, want to highlight that our BTC 2X Fly was launched on Sushi Swap, with Onsen Rewards. That was a huge lift by our BD team, and we were able to work really closely with the Sushi team to make that happen. We're really, really focused on. We see Sushi as like a real key partner for launching a lot of our indexes. It's just, the community is just out of this world. Like the energy is out of this world. Mackie's just built this incredible team, very responsive. We have spent a lot of time figuring out like our L2 strategy over the last few months, and ultimately decided to launch with Sushi on Polygon, supported by Index Rewards. I believe that is getting turned on later this month, and it was just a no-brainer. It was like, I think that here's the real alpha, right? That I think is hard to see from the outside looking in, if you're just seeing tokens and token prices, is like what teams are easy to work with, like what protocols like does your culture click with, right? Like what is, what is the easy lift? And Index Co-op, I think we've really focused on building that culture, and I think we see a lot of cultural synergies with Sushi Swap, and like that's only going to get more important as DeFi grows, right? Like I think we think of these like protocols as just like algorithms in the sky, right? Just like codes and ones and zeros, but the thing that makes these things move is the humans behind it. And it's like the 532 people listening right now. It is, the people holding these AMAs that are, coordinating what goes on Onsen, how it, what rewards get allocated, what goes where on layer 2. Like all the people and all those relationships behind these protocols is what really like makes them successful long term. And I think that's something that we're really going to start to really see the value of over the next couple of years as DeFi continues to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. No, community is such a huge thing, and just how DAOs and governance and everything driving all of this. And I mean, it seems like we're really spending a lot of time on that today here. So it just shows the importance of it. And yeah, I don't know. It's good to hear that there's such a positive response from you guys towards the sushi community. I mean, it's an amazing community to be a part of, and to see it grow and flourish. And like you say, having so many people here wanting to participate in it, it's awesome. And it's cool that you've got you have products on the Onsen as well, and any kind of collaboration or looking into anything that we could do with sushi, perhaps like with you guys. Like, what about some sort of like an index token with sushi?
Yeah, that is an awesome idea. So, I mean, I think like we could even, we could do like a sushi top 10, right? Like the top 10 most popular tokens on Sushi Swap. Do an index of that. And, the cool thing is we do very, very compelling revenue splits with our methodologist partners for our indexes. So, we would share the revenue from that index with Sushi Swap. And we've seen, like, that revenue can be used for really cool things. It can be used to, fund community grants. It can be used to, go back into the protocol. That could be really cool. I don't know if anybody else on the core team has any thoughts on that, or how we would build that.
Yeah, we can look into that and chat about it and see if that's something that's feasible. Yeah, absolutely. But no, that's cool. That's cool. I was just kind of going through the text questions here as well. We had, so as we've just talked about here, Polygon, that's sweet. And FLI's product using Kashi. Is that something you guys have looked at?
No, they're not. They're not using Kashi. We're using Compound in the back.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still so nascent, right? Like, I think, as these relationships develop, as they grow, like there's so many integrations we can do between Sushi Swap and Index Co-op, and there's so many ways. These protocols, they rise and fall together, right? Like there's so many ways you can tie it in, and it's like it's really and it's cool because like communities can work together. Like we're in the very nascent stages of. Like right now, all the DAOs are just like working on themselves, right? Like every DAO is like working on its own forum, working on its own projects, and like we're at the we haven't really had a whole lot of like DAO to DAO partnerships, right? Like there's some like large scale, liquidity miner or whatever, but like be nothing cooler than two communities coming together, be like, hey, like how like. You have all these products, we have this platform, or we have these products, like how do we merge them or how do we create really cool value with them?
Yeah, and this is the beauty of this space, is collaboration and seeing what we can grow and what we can blend together here. So very cool. Anybody else have questions? Appreciate the AMA text questions coming in, but we haven't had anybody up on stage yet today. Anybody have any questions? Please raise your hand and we can get you up here. If anybody does. I like it when people are up here.
While we're maybe waiting for somebody, there was a question in the text I haven't got an answer yet. I think if that's all right. It was from Wimwam regarding non-dev, this is maybe changing to like DAO contributions, but how can, non-devs get, find ways to contribute, find opportunities within crypto. I think that was the essence of the question. And I want to just highlight a couple things. First, there's, I think, a premium on people in DAOs that can think analytically and can bring reasoned arguments and data to the table. So what I mean by that is if you go to governance forums, it can oftentimes be just a bunch of opinions thrown back and forth. But the hard part about that is, when we're dealing in subjectivity, often it can be hard to move forward. So people that are willing to deal in objectivity and do the work to bring objectivity to the table within a DAO are very valuable. And even if you're a non-dev, if you have an analytical toolkit or you're not a smart contract dev, I think that you can bring that to the culture of a DAO and to the contribution. And then it depends on the DAO what contributions are like what's open, what's available. I'm obviously a big proponent of data. That's what I do at the Co-op is lead analytics, but that's just a theme across crypto. I mean, people in crypto love data. They love to understand better what's going on. It's such a nascent space that there's so many open questions to understand. And every protocol that you go to, every project, they undoubtedly have tons of questions that they just don't quite have clear answers on because they haven't had the time to really dig into on-chain data and figure out what's going on. So that's a really ripe opportunity if you join a community and just start querying Dune or using the graph, basically bringing data to the table. You're going to provide a lot of value. And that's a great way to contribute to a DAO when you're not a smart contract engineer. But I just think in general, there's obviously lots of ways to contribute outside of smart contract engineering, as long as you're willing to roll up your sleeves and hustle.
Yeah, cool. No, it's good to hear that because there's a lot of us that are maybe not super dev focused, and there's a lot to communities more than just development. So yeah, thank you for that, JD. Silence. Maybe not be silent. Here we go. Are you coming up? I've invited you to speak. Silence. Here you are. Here you are. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Silence. Oh, the irony. Silence. Unmute yourself. If not, here I'm going to bring up Crypto Bunker.
A meta joke.
Okay. Crypto Bunker.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. I figured I could fill the silence. So I was just wondering, like, what you guys think about trading like in-game items within these NFT games, and also like lending and borrowing against. Like, is that something you guys see in the future for these metaverses, and like how can that integrate with sushi?
Okay, I can talk a little bit about how we see that evolving. So I would say that like video games had internal economies for forever, right? And have with blockchain is that finally those economies are sort of open and players can directly monetize their time, right? And so trading of in-game items, I think, is perfectly normal, and it actually what makes NFT games profitable, right? Because if you think about the business model for NFT games, they make most of their money through the marketplace, right? And that basically comes from people winning items in the game and then trading them. So I certainly think that like that's a crucial part of NFT games in general. Like that's part of the economic model. That's why play to earn works, right? Like you are able to put in the time, earn an item, and then monetize it. In terms of like how it can be integrated with sushi, I think it's if that's obviously working on the NFT marketplace, and I think if you wanted to sort of extend it into fractionalized NFTs as well as kind of pools of same types of NFTs that could have an ERC20 attached to it, similar to what NFT 20 does, for example. I think that is one of the most natural uh, uh, connection between sort of in-game items, in-game trading, and sushi that I can see.
Yeah, and maybe even as we roll out Show You, that might be some sort of integration there as well, perhaps. Go ahead, Crypto Bunker, if you had other things.
Yeah, do you guys see that happening for like mainstream games at all? Like in the future, like like Fortnite or some of these like AAA games that aren't on the blockchain, do you think that they'll integrate with the blockchain? Because I mean, it just seems like a natural progression for them to obviously for them, they think of it as like, okay, well then we can't make revenue off it, but I feel like they don't understand that they can have like all these royalties that come through for like, all the way into the future. Like they put a 10% royalty on any of these in-game items, and then all of a sudden they're just making that royalty forever. So like I just feel like eventually they're going to have to integrate it, and it's so I don't know if you got what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I think that the genie is out of the bottle with this stuff to a certain extent, and as we see more and more people understand it, and like we always use Axie Infinity because it's at the moment the only but easily the best example. As the word starts to spread, like even word of mouth, you see how quickly people pick this up. And if you've got as like a player, if you've got the option to play a game that allows you to freely trade the value that you earn from it, or you can go into a walled garden and go and play Fortnite, and you can't move your skins around and you can't trade them, and like, which one are you going to choose? So at the end of the day, I think it's inevitable that at some point that they're going to have to realize that, like, tokenomics, like the power of the token, the way that you can align incentives using tokens, like that idea fundamentally is always going to win out, I think. So yeah, I would totally agree with you. I think that the more traditional method of like building a game and all of the profit going to the developers basically is going to be outdated very, very quickly. And I know that Verto actually put some numbers around this. I don't know if he's about to chime in with that, like how Axie stacks up against something like Roblox.
I think like it's going to be, in my mind, it's going to be challenging for like the existing incumbents to move to blockchain, just because I think they've built these substantial walled gardens with a lot of users. And so Roblox has 200 million, I think, monthly active users, which is quite substantial. And also for blockchain, for NFT games to work, right, you need a token. So Roblox, they do have like their in-game token, in-game currency, but it's very challenging to introduce a token at this stage, right, where a lot of the profits or a lot of the financial benefits are accruing to shareholders. And here in an NFT game, a lot of that accrues to token holders. So it's going to be really challenging, I think, for the incumbents. I think Fortnite is interesting in terms of Epic Games CEO have been talking about the metaverse and the vision for the metaverse for a better part of a decade now, and they're really doing quite a lot to build out like a metaverse. But again, it's going to be interesting to see if it's open and permissionless or if it's private and permissioned. But in terms of like the future, I think, of video games in general is NFT games, right? So I don't know if the incumbents will migrate, but we'll definitely see a lot of AAA quality AAA studios start to build blockchain games. Quite excited about Sandbox, and yeah, like Dofor said, I think if you look at the financials, like Roblox, despite massive growth and a lot of users, they haven't made money ever. Like they haven't turned a profit in their history, and Axie just made 100 million last month. And for Axie, I think run rate is, I don't know, maybe 250 grand a month. So the economics are just much better, not just for the users, but for the developers as well.
Hope that answers everything there for everyone. Appreciate all the all that elaboration, Verto.
If you guys couldn't tell, Verto and Dark Forest know more about the metaverse than probably anyone else in the world right now.
Perfect. We'll be chatting after. Yeah, okay. Hopefully that covers for you, Crypto Bunker and Silence. If you've got, if you are looking to unsilence, let's see what we can do there. Otherwise, we'll move you to the stage, and I'll bring it. There's a couple other hands that are coming up here, and we had a question here from Vintage, just kind of discussing like thoughts about DAO co-op governance as it stands today, even though it's evolving and being discovered, needs to look at going ahead interacting with real world governance. We've kind of been touching on that quickly, and that can turn into its whole AMA on itself. So maybe if we just briefly touch on it, that would be cool. But you know, it does seem like it could move that way. Again, you know, just for me, I think about it as you know, fair distribution as well, and how that can work. But maybe you guys have some other thoughts on that.
Yeah, I can touch on this. I just, the way I kind of go with this question is I can talk for just a quick second about what we're learning right now as a DAO as we scale a little bit more. And you know, so the Index Co-op was started by, you know, in a partnership between Set Labs and DeFi Pulse to kind of jumpstart this community in this DAO. And that allowed early on for the DAO to maintain some pretty high level alignment and make, you know, strategic bets, make strategic plays on, you know, how we were going to approach growing the co-op, what products we should focus on, and whatnot. But as we've grown a lot over the last 6 months, you know, our community's grown a ton. We have 8 to 10 different working groups functioning. Just so much going on. The problem becomes now you have so many, especially like more high level contributors. You're a bigger player in the market. How do you maintain strategic alignment? How do you keep everybody focused on the right initiatives? Because there are so many things that could add some value, but if your value isn't pointed in the right direction, you lose momentum, you miss capitalizing on the biggest opportunities, etc. So we're learning how do we structure our decision-making processes, our delegation, our governance processes, so that we can still move quickly, that we can make strategic bets, we can maintain high-level alignment and focus throughout the DAO. And that's the challenge I think we're working through right now. And, you know, that's needed, obviously, to keep speed and to be able to negotiate with other parties, to be able to, just to win the market. I think you have to be able to keep focus and move fast, and that gets harder and harder the more you grow a DAO, if that makes sense.
I would also say something that Simon and myself talked a lot about in Paris. Basically, two things. One is that there's a difference between trying to build a business on blockchain, right? And like starting a community that is focused on like, I don't know, collecting art, right? Like there are differences between like social tokens and community tokens and building communities and building a business. So, and then sort of to add to that, right? Like if you're trying to build a business, you need some sort of coherent governance, coherent decision-making processes. And what we found is that like if you are fully decentralized, if you don't have anyone who sort of has the power to set the agenda, it's really hard to make decisions. It's really hard to scale. And like some communities do it well, but we found that it's actually quite challenging. So what we've been talking about a bit is sort of the idea of like the minimum viable decentralization, and that point is very like it's different um, in the journey, right? As a DAO grows, you can allow more and more and more decentralization, but a lot of people sort of think that decentralization solves everything, but it's actually um, you need to take it relatively carefully and just to sort of make sure that we can actually scale a protocol, that we can actually bring in more people, we can make decisions, we have the right structures. So that's something that I think we've learned over the last 6 months or so that was not apparent to, I would say, any of us before then. I think we were all sort of, decentralize everything. Decentralization sort of solves everything, but it actually makes a few things more challenging. And so I think every DAO that sort of scales will have to go through this learning.
Yeah, thank you for that insight. That's an interesting take, and yeah, decentralizing can definitely slow things down. Definitely see that, but yeah, it's there's a like I like that keyword there of minimum viable decentralization, where we can still keep things fair, but still make things effective. So that's yeah, some interesting discussion around that.
It's like it's a learning process, right? And like so, Verto and I talked about this a lot, and it's like the idea that nobody in the audience, none of us here, like none of us grew up in decentralized organizations, right? Like this is a very new concept. We certainly didn't grow up in decentralized digital organizations, right? So like operating in these structures is like it's a learning process that everybody is going through, right? So like if we think about how people grow up, you go up, you go to school, you kind of get told what to do, then you go to university, you get told what to do, then you get to do a job, you get told what to do. And decentralized organizations don't really work that way. It's much more independent. It's much more a premium on freedom, on autonomy, on people identifying the direction they want to go in and going in that direction. And like it's going to take protocols, it's going to take organizations time to really learn how to operate as DAOs in the most efficient manner possible. And like we can't like scaling DAOs and scaling decentralization. It's not a panacea. It doesn't solve everything. So it's like it doesn't scale linearly. You can't just throw 200 more people at a problem in a decentralized way and expect it to get solved. Like the DAO has to grow kind of at a natural speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Let's bring up Tang Feng. Tang Feng, I've invited you to speak if you've got a question for us. Okay, maybe not. Yeah. If anybody else has any questions here, or we can kind of go through the AMA text questions again here quickly, but yeah, probably getting close to a good time to wrap up here as well. And yeah, so if there's any last questions here, if somebody wants to come up and ask, please raise your hand and we can get you up here. And Yeah, I think Ting Fang has a question. Looks like they're going to try and connect, but
I think there is a good question in the text channel from Vintage, talking about how like there needs to be potentially a pipeline for non-developers, or like an accelerator built by a coalition of DAOs to produce talent. Um, I think it's really challenging in terms of building or like bringing in talent or developing talent, just from the perspective of I think like 10 months ago it was much easier because there was less stuff built in DeFi, right? Or in crypto in general. Like there was just way less things that you needed to be aware of and on top of. But we've seen like exponential growth in terms of applications and protocols, and everything is compatible, right? So the amount of knowledge and like context that people need to contribute to a DAO at like a high level is just getting bigger and bigger. So it's challenging. I think like the internship that Coop is doing is like a good step. I think there's a lot of other programs that are being run by other organizations to sort of try to get people up to speed. But it's like it's a challenge. I think it's definitely a challenge. But like a program run by multiple DAOs, maybe it's an extension of the index internship that's just scaled. Would be really good. I think we definitely need to sort of bring in more talent and sort of try to get people up to speed with context and with sort of background knowledge.
yeah, thank you for all that. Go ahead, JD.
I was just going to add as a note the co-op internship we had, I think, so we had 5 or 6 interns we're bringing on across different working groups, and we had 388 applications. So there's like Verta said, this is kind of our first step at solving this. We want to be really committed to, bringing in people, helping them onboard to DeFi, helping them become contributors and level up. And there's just an insane amount of demand, I think, for people wanting to do that, and to get on board. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, cool. Okay, we've got. Let's try again here for Tang Fang, and I see Zappuccini. I'll bring both of you up here, and then whoever's mic gets going first there. Let's try it out. Go ahead, Zappuccini.
Well, Tang Fang was asking about copyright for NFTs in the metaverse. In the text.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm not in there right now, but okay.
So if you'd like to address that first.
I don't think it's like the question is specific enough. So maybe Tang Fang, I don't know, maybe you want to put in like the actual question in a text channel. We can get from there.
Yeah, that might be I don't know if that's really a question specifically for, towards index here as well. Because I mean, that's kind of a broad, that's a super broad question when we're talking about copyright with NFTs. That is an interesting topic because I don't know how you really, when it's blockchain, anything's possible, but it may end up having to be like some sort of front end curation or something. I don't know. But Ting Fang, I've added you again here, but if you can get up here, hopefully something works. We can maybe dive into that a little further or touch on it some more. But yeah.
Well, he says it's a loaded question. Mine's a little bit loaded, I guess. It's a little bit of a different question. In respect to the metaverse and how you foresee it being integrated into the real world in the future, it's a bit of a different question. Do you see any detrimental effects as we push towards this, as far as economics or societal issues. Like I know I spent many, many, many days of my life playing MMOs, wasting a lot of time. Do you see any of like the digital assets really shaking up the world economy, or do you just see anything on the logical extreme in that respect?
I think it's interesting. When I explained this, like what I'm up to friends who are not in crypto, there was a lot of pushback on that, and they took it to like what you're saying, basically an extreme, and said, "Oh well, if everybody's playing these games, who's going to do the important jobs?" Which I think highlights the point that there are jobs that are done today where, like frontline healthcare workers, possibly like not paid enough, and if there is more competition for people for people's time, and they can get value like elsewhere, then perhaps it's time for the world to start paying people appropriately for like the jobs that they do. Is just something interesting related to kind of what you're saying that came up recently. And to answer your question, I think as with a lot of this stuff, it can go one of two ways, and blockchain is exactly the same. Like the blockchain technology, as we're seeing with the rise of China's like central bank digital currency, the tech can be used for like complete overarching control and like insight into every single transaction. But it was originally intended to give everybody the freedom to transact with whoever they want trustlessly. So I think, yeah, I just see it over and over again. Like all of the best technology can fall like either one way or another off this like knife edge, and it either goes bad or it goes good. But it never ends up at an extreme. There's always like it's always somewhere in the middle. And I think, as with everything, like this NFT technology, the rise of the metaverse, I don't think it's going to solve like human nature, because that's fundamentally what causes a lot of our problems. But I think the opportunities that it offers, and like I talked about, the like geographical arbitrage, the ability for countries that have traditionally been worse off than others, like they tend to be, if you look at Southeast Asia, for example, like they're more tech savvy, like mobile, digital native. So they've got an opportunity to like dethrone the West, who have grown lazy and complacent in certain areas. So I think there are opportunities. I think hopefully it will level the playing field. But as with everything, it could go. You know, some people can use it for nefarious or negative uses.
Yeah, I would just add that like I think there's definitely going to be impact on economics, on the labor market, on the world economy. I think we generally like I like to think of the metaverse as like the global economy 2.0. But like therefore said, it can go both ways. But like the current economic situation, right? Like it's not sustainable. I would argue that we've had um, significant economic issues for the better part of 3 decades, 3 decades. And you look at inequality, you can look at financial inclusion, a whole bunch of things. Um, the technology that we have with blockchain, with NFTs, this is like it enables us to actually address some of the shortcomings of the current system. And we might not get there, we might get halfway there, we might sort of fall into the same traps, but at least we have an opportunity to design a better system. And it's sort of up to us to do with that opportunity what we think is sort of appropriate.
Cool. I'm with you on Zuckerberg, man. I don't trust that guy. Appreciate it, fellas.
Yeah, it's good to have a fellow comrade in the trenches, like down with Facebook.
So
yeah,
Zuckerberg, if you're listening, I know you're in here. So let's just shout out to the homies there. They love you. They love you so much. Yeah, no, awesome. Yeah, again, that just turns into a centralized centralized system, which I don't know that we're really on board with. So, yeah, thank you guys for chiming in on that. Okay, with I know Tang Fang here's got it's a little bit of an elaborate question going here as far as copyrights and NFTs and into the metaverse and whatnot. Yeah. I don't know if you guys are going through that question, and if we're starting to kind of step away, we're kind of getting more into like metaverse NFT stuff versus, focusing really around index. But if you guys if you've got a quick question on that, or a quick answer for that question, we can look at that. But that one's getting a little bit elaborate and kind of edge case. So, yeah, and we should be wrapping up here soon too. But if you guys want to field any part of that, please go ahead.
I don't know if those guys are trying to answer that question. If not, I definitely wanted to, before we close up, kind of hit on some of the stuff that's kind of happening with contributing to DAOs. Something I think we've kind of been talking a little bit about, revolution. We're talking about like the metaverse. We're talking about, all these changes that are happening, right? And I think right now there's this huge amount of people who are kind of on the outside looking in on this revolution, and they're very unsure on like what steps they need to take, or like how to get involved, or like how to partake in this, right? And it's happening so fast, and it's happening in this really, really unique space. And I think like we are at a generational change. Like we are really like I was talking to Dark Force about this the other day. Like we act like the only organization that's really around right now that hasn't been disrupted in the last 100 years is finance, right? Like gaming has been disrupted 30 times in the last 20 years. Art has been disrupted, all these things, but finance is basically operated in the same way that in the same structure it's existed for the last 50, 100 years since after World War II. And I think there's this idea that this disruption, like just like we see disruption happening in these other spots, happening in NFTs, happening in the metaverse and gaming, and we're like, why isn't that happening to finance? And the reality is like it's happening, but it's happening so much slower because like that is the largest disruption, right? Like this disruption that we're doing of global finance, and the change that is happening and that will come from bringing these financial systems that have been closed off to so many people through the world. Like that is such a profound change for society that like implications of that will be felt for decades to come. And if you are in this AMA, if you are on these discords, if you are listening, like you are part of that revolution, you are part of that movement. You are on the vanguard of a global financial revolution. Like you are really holding the standard. And if you're kind of on the sideline saying like, how do I get involved? What do I do? Like there is room for you here, right? Like there is room for you in DeFi. There's room for you in these protocols, in these DAOs. Like every single person who wants to get involved, like this is one of the biggest global revolutions in history. Like there is enough space for everybody to contribute, for everybody to earn a living, for everybody to figure out how to make these DAOs work, how to make these decentralized organizations work, and how to really bring financial equity to like every single person in the world. So, Tango, before we close out, like I want to thank you. Like these AMAs, like this is how it happens, man. Like every single day, like this is the communication. These are the conversations. And, there's 500 people on this call, right? In 2 months, it's going to be, 1,000. And, 6 months from now, it'll be 10,000. Then it'll be 100,000. Then it's going to be 1 million. And every single time that we add more people, that's more and more people who are accessing the global financial revolution, who are bringing true freedom to their lives, like true access to equity. So every single time we do these things, it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, awesome words there on all of that. No, very inspiring, and we have a really cool future ahead here, 100%. So okay, a couple last things here, just in the AMA text questions here. G-Gen is on is live right now, so I'll have to chime into that and hear what they've got to say. But bullish on CBDCs. And let's see, what else have we got here? Add a security fund. Don't know how about securities. That's maybe something we'll have to look at another time. And RuneScape metaverse stuff. Potentially, I guess we'll have to. That might be more of a generic question there for that. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's a great place to wrap up here. We've covered a ton here today. It's been a really great AMA. I really appreciate everyone coming out for this and for Index Co-op expanding, on so much conversation. This has been one of the longer ones we've had here, and I sure appreciate all the input. It's great having such a wide variety of your team here to answer on all of this. So thank you all very much. So just touching one more quick thing here with the Popes. We've had some errors today. If you want one, please stick around after the call, and we're gonna have to do a little bit. It's gonna take us a little minute here just to get things dialed in, but just wait after the call, and we'll give further instruction there. As far as for you guys and your website, and that's probably the best way to connect with all your socials. All of that is on your website. That's in your website being indexcoop.com, correct?
Yeah, sorry, I thought Big Sky was going to jump in and take that. I'm back in the trenches trying to reply to people.
Oh yeah.
So indexcoop.com. You can access our products through tokensets.com as well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're on Twitter at Index Co-op, and we have a Discord channel as well, which I can probably drop into the chat. So yeah.
Cool. And is that all can be found on your website as well? I think there's the links to your Discord and Twitter and all that on your website.
Yeah,
so,
they'll be on there, yeah.
Cool. I like directing people that way just so that we don't end up with any attack vectors. So that way we don't type anything in weird and people don't get attacked. So yeah, awesome. And as always, this has been is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Sushi Official YouTube channel. And yeah, follow me on Twitter, 0xtangle, and you can keep up to date with any of the latest AMAs coming out with sushi here. This week, we've got a couple others coming up, so stay tuned in the announcement channels. And of course, on Thursday, we always have our sushi forum at 9 p.m. UTC. And yeah, that's a great place to wrap up. Thank you all so much. I appreciate everything, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.